All right, I am here with Heather, who had a bit of an incident at the Capitol last night. But first, I just want to start off and get to know you just a little bit better. So I see your shirt, No on SB276.
Absolutely.
It's a great shirt.
Yes.
So why are you involved in this opposition to SB276? Do you have a child that's been affected by vaccination?
I do. We vaccinated at 2 months old and 4 months old. And after the 4 month shots, he developed a fever, hives, screaming, passing out, and then seizures. I found out later that that wasn't as rare as what the doctors told me, and they tried to say it wasn't related. And so I've just always said he had a reaction. And but we've had other doctors since then who have been helping us recover from that, who have acknowledged it. And so I want him to be able to go to school. And seizures are not this bill goes so far that his medical exemption he currently has will no longer be valid.
So you correlated it to the vaccination. It was happening after vaccination?
Yes,
Yeah.
he had the 4 month shots, and that night woke both of us up out of a deep sleep, screaming, and had a fever. And we opened up his little onesie, and he had hives everywhere, and just the screaming. And then I called the pediatrician, and I'm on the phone with him after like maybe 15, 20 minutes. We're trying to decide what to do, and all of a sudden it was like silent, deathly silent. And I was like, oh, well, maybe he just went back to sleep. And that's all I knew. I just thought he'd gone back to sleep. And it really wasn't until I started, the seizure started in a couple of days. And doctors said it wasn't related. But my gut said otherwise. And like I said, then I had other doctors later asking me, did he have any neurological stuff going on when he was a baby? And any seizures, like because he had reactions to different medications and stuff. And I was like, well, actually, yes. And so anyways, here we are. We're mostly recovered, which is a great place to be. But he has 4 anaphylactic food allergies, so we carry 2 EpiPens with us everywhere when we go on airplanes or to remote locations, the mountains, the beach, anywhere that's more than an hour and a half from a hospital on an airplane. Then we tend to carry 6 to 8 EpiPens with us. And to me, anaphylaxis that should not be what we're all striving to avoid. And nowhere in Senator Pam's bill does it say you're going to start having people, pediatricians are going to have epinephrine on stock, right on, or that we're going to have them give vaccines in the hospital or anything because to protect kids from that risk. We've spent so much money and time getting to the point that we have. We spent his college tuition easily in the first 4 years of life. 4 years at the beginning rather than the back end. So we're still saving for the back end. But we spent that money and time, and we're unable to go to school for quite a bit of time because therapy was so many hours a week. Food therapy, speech therapy, OT. So it's been quite a journey of recovery, and no one ever wants to think that they would have to risk their child going back to that place.
Right. So you're no longer comfortable vaccinating?
No. And we had a second child 3.5 years later, and unbeknownst to, I didn't know that vitamin K still had the polysorbate 80, that it had the black box warning. I didn't know any of that at the time. So we did the vitamin K, nothing else for him. And thank goodness we didn't, because he had a different reaction to topical steroids. We applied them to the top of his feet off and on, according to doctor's directions, for about a year and a half. And he ended up developing a growth delay, adrenal suppression, thin skin that was worse than the eczema skin, and finally an addiction that to the cortisol. We were supplementing. It's hormone replacement therapy, but nobody ever describes it that way.
Right.
And so when we removed it because of all the issues it was causing, we've been dealing with a 6-year withdrawal of, and he was in a full body, head to toe, itching 24 hours a day, 22 hours a day, sleeping for 2. And that happened for 6.5, 8 months. And it was just miserable. And dermatologists don't recognize it. We had to see a specialist in LA. We lived in Colorado, so we had to fly there to get the diagnosis. And what I've found out since then is that that's related to a Th1, Th2 immune system imbalance. And vaccines cause the same shift in that, and making the body a Th2, like autoimmune, attacking itself system. And so so we're not willing to risk that.
Right.
Not willing to risk it.
And you shouldn't, have to. So how is SB276 going to affect you? Is the medical exemption or a medical exemption not an option for you and with
well,
the
they both currently have them.
Okay.
And they will lose them under this.
Right.
Because family medical history doesn't pertain. A sensitivity to an ingredient doesn't pertain. You heard on the video released earlier this week that anaphylaxis, you've got doctors' offices who won't even give a medical exemption for anaphylaxis.
Right.
So they won't even allow you into their clinic even if you had anaphylaxis to the vaccine.
Right.
So who are you going to find to prescribe, to give a medical exemption?
Right.
So and seizures don't count. So they will both lose them.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So you've been involved in the opposition to SB276.
Yes.
Peacefully opposing the bill.
Yes.
And so something happened last night. And can you run me through everything? Maybe run me through the day yesterday, and then bring me into the night and what happened.
Sure. I've been at the Capitol on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yesterday was Friday, and
what have you been doing there?
I've just been. Tuesday we were strictly holding signs. I was making conversation with people as they were walking by, taking their pictures with the bear. The governor's doors were open to everybody. Wednesday, again, holding signs until one of the rallies from outside came inside. And so then we chanted with them. Thursday, I wasn't assigned to hold signs. I just showed up and participated. And then yesterday brought my kids with me for the last 2 hours. I knew it'd be over around 6 when the Capitol closed. And then I saw Sandra, the nurse, in the hallway, trying to compose herself, and I went up to give her a hug because I had met her the night before, luckily.
A nurse in opposition to
SB276. Yes. And so, I was like, "What's going on? You okay? Just breathe." And she's like, "I'm staying tonight." And
because we're down to the wire.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't even know until 2 a.m. about this trailer bill.
Yeah.
I didn't know that things got way more serious yesterday than what they were earlier in the day. So I called my husband and asked him to pick up supplies because we were just going to camp on the floor. And so he made a Target run and came, grabbed the kids, and dropped off stuff. We got it all in there, 1 minute to spare before security closed, and we were just gonna hang out.
Refusing to leave.
Yeah. The governor has refused to meet us.
Yes.
So, Governor, here we are. We're ready to meet when you are, and no need to make an appointment. We're here. 24/7. Whenever you're ready, we're here. And
you're being asked to play Russian roulette with your child's life, or have them removed from school. So I understand your passion.
Yeah. Yep. So, and we thought it was going to be until this morning. That was when it was. So everybody was kind of thrown for a loop. There were 11 of us who would have stayed had we known we were going to get out this morning. But then they informed us that it was a Friday night. There were lots of scare tactics with, the jails are really. Have you ever been to the Sacramento County Jail? Have you ever known anybody who's been to a Sacramento County jail?
So they were trying to deter you. They were trying to
Friday
scare
night.
You. Right.
Friday and Saturday nights are really sketchy. You should remove your jewelry.
Wow.
You're not going to get any news coverage tonight. Maybe you want to do this on Monday. Which I know now that there's a possibility that these 2 bills could pass on Monday. So I'm even more relieved that we did this last night.
Right.
And yeah, and and then kind of the last thing at maybe 6:20ish was the it's likely that you won't get out until Monday morning. And so we went from, a 12 to 15 hour inconvenience to a 3-day, 2-night jail K is what I'm terming it as.
How'd that make you feel?
It was a much, much, much bigger decision at that point in time.
Yeah.
And
have you ever been to jail?
I've never been to jail.
Right.
Never. Yeah. And I've been involved in other political movements for small local politics, but never been to jail. Never done that. So.
Was there a particular senator that was pushing for you to be arrested? I had heard a rumor that there was a certain push. Did you hear
Not to
anything about
my
this?
knowledge.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
So
they're threatening you. They're threatening you, and it's a bit scary, but you're standing your ground.
Yeah. Well, and 9 people could not stay. Like, they had kids at home.
Right.
One was a nursing mom. She was going to stay until today and pump.
Yeah.
Or and I was going to teach her how to hand express. And in jail, I was like, we can do this if you want to. But when it became the 3 nights, 2 days, I was like, no. She wanted to stay.
Right.
I was like, no, this
Right.
is not. But that's how far she wanted to stay.
Right.
That's how passionate people are. A nursing mom
Yeah.
with breasts full of milk wants to stay and has to be talked out of it. Your children, your children in your body need you to not.
Right.
And
it's difficult for a lot of us because we have children, and a lot of us disabled children.
Absolutely, yes. And parents work, and it's or they're divorced, and so there's the childcare issue. So, yeah. So then it was down. Sandra she was staying no matter what, and I was the only other one who was still available, and which is with the way things have gone with this, it's not safe for us to be out protesting on our own, and so I couldn't say no at that point. We're sticking together.
Right.
We are sticking together, and we're going to do this together. And we got in the van, and I looked at her, and I was like, have you ever been arrested? Because I thought I had heard her say she had been. And she's like, no, I'm a nerd. I'm a straight A student. I've never done this. And I was like, yeah, it's same here. So our joke is that they're bringing out the introverts who don't normally do this. And
They've pushed a mother out of desperation.
Yes.
And
These are our children. These are our lives, financial, emotional, physical. And nobody is willing to say who's going to take responsibility for the care if they survive. Okay, we had seizures once. What's the next reaction?
Right.
Both of my kids, the dentist of all people, we were just doing cavities, and she heard their medical history, and she's like, there's a dental panel we can run, blood test to see about sensitive materials that are going to go in the mouth. Came back with 17 things that should not be in their mouth. Everything from aluminum, mercury, formaldehyde, polysorbate 80, propylene glycol, and all of these things are in vaccines. And I'm like, if it shouldn't be hardened in their teeth for life, why would it be safe to inject it?
Right.
And, and I've got a dentist who just heard their medical history and was that concerned about making sure that she wasn't going to cause a long-term health issue with that.
Right.
So, yeah, but, and death, first you got to get somebody to admit that it's related to the vaccine. And then you can go to the vaccine injury court and $250,000, and that's
what
not
your
enough.
child is worth.
That's what your child is worth, and
Right.
that's not enough. Your child is priceless.
Right. Yeah.
Our children are priceless.
So you were arrested. You were taken to the jailhouse, and then I heard that the media showed up. And did you get to talk to media?
We did. The second we got to talk to NBC.
Okay.
He apparently misunderstood the entire thing and thought that we had been arrested at the Capitol and released at the Capitol.
Right.
And so I went running down the street after him to clarify,
Right.
because he had interviewed us, and then somebody, and I was like, no, you need to understand, we were here in this building, and we were in the booking process. We were all the way through the medical evaluation, which is very invasive, by the way.
Right.
And he just nodded at me, okay, but nothing happened. You were released. And no charges were pressed. And all I could say was yes, yes.
So
yes.
they did. So they didn't press charges.
No.
Wow. Fascinating.
We don't even know what the charge was. Is what we realized today. We don't know what it was. We don't know why we were released.
It seems like they don't want to charge you, even though I'm sure they could have charged you. They don't want to arrest anybody in this situation, and they don't want to create any kind of hubbub, any kind of media, anything that we can talk about.
Something. It was outside. The cops did not know how to process us.
Were you put into cuffs?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No, we were put in cuffs at the Capitol.
And you were marched out and put into a cop car.
We were put into a van.
Okay.
And yes, and then we were taken to the basement. So we were taken to the basement of the Capitol to be driven to the basement of the county jail, to be let in through the electronic locked doors.
Right.
And sat down separately. And the one guy didn't even know if it was a misdemeanor or felony, and for Sandra. And then when she was, and then we were, processed and all that stuff. The medical evaluation took place. My nurse was awful and wanted me to sign off on my paper she didn't fill in my vitals, or the question saying that whether or not I was under the influence or appeared erratic behavior, that box wasn't checked yes or no.
Right.
So I X'd it out, and she got a little, she wasn't happy with that, and she's like, that's their form. And I'm like, right, but they didn't fill it out. I asked you to, and you refused. So I X'd it. And then she didn't put in my vitals, and I had a temperature. One thermometer showed 101, the other one showed 99, and so I wrote it in, and I didn't know what else. And I was like, what else do I write here? And she said, that was when she got really mad, and you don't write anything. And it's like, well, I can't sign this.
Right.
This is the state of my health right now going into your custody. So I need proof of that in case anything gets worse.
Right.
I'm not signing that.
Right.
And she was so mad. There was apparently a second form she was supposed to show me.
Right.
That she showed Sandra. Sandra refused to sign. She didn't even show it to me.
Wow.
And she wrote off that I had refused to sign it. And I asked her, I was like, where, is there another form I'm supposed to look at? And she refused to show it to me.
Wow.
And so, and then Sandra gave me a look because she was escorted down the wrong hallway, back where we came from, rather than the hallway we were supposed to be going down. And I'm sitting there waiting, and I hear the other cop ask the Capitol Police one, like, what do I do? And it's like, I don't know. We've never gotten this far we've never been this far. I don't know what we're supposed to do. It was kind of comical. I still didn't know what was happening. Nobody had told me what was happening. So I didn't know what it was related to until after I got out. And
were the police that took you into custody, were they being nice? Were they just doing their job? Were they being a little bit mean?
They were doing their jobs, and they were being nice.
Okay.
And I do appreciate that they warned us that when we got to the county jail, going to be a whole different ball game.
Right.
Which, as evidenced by the nurse who didn't like somebody filling out her forms for her, doing her job that she should have been doing. So we were kind of warned to just yes and no, and don't try to have a conversation with them, and which is hard to do when you're just
Right. Wow.
But and so then we got outside and we were transferred back into the California Highway Patrol custody. So from Sacramento County Sheriff's Office, I guess, we were transferred back into their custody. They changed out our cuffs again, put us into a different patrol car, and took us to where we knew friends could pick us up at.
And dropped you off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then they wanted to drop us off on the dark corner, and to save us the embarrassment. And I was like, no, you can go drop us off out front, because this isn't my embarrassment. This is your embarrassment. You're taking cuffs off of me in public.
Right.
So they compromised. I didn't force it any further. I'd pushed my luck. So they parked, it was at the Hyatt Hotel so there was the valet parking area, and it was lit up structure. So they parked right before all the lights.
Right.
But I know it's on security footage there. I asked them about it, So because our friends didn't know where we were to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, but it was interesting. It was interesting. Never thought I would go this far.
Right. You shouldn't have to go this far.
I shouldn't have to go this far.
No.
And we're the public. It's our tax dollars paying the governor's salary.
Right.
It's our tax dollars paying for that building to be open. It's our tax dollars paying for the electricity, for the police officers, for everything
And paying
in
for
that
the
capital.
public schools.
And paying for our schools. And yeah, absolutely. And so I understand the governor has a busy schedule, but at some point, we've been told that they've never had opposition like this ever in 2,000 bills in 7 years,
Right.
in one of the senator's words last week.
Right.
And we're just ignored.
And we're still being ignored.
Still, and
They're supposed to represent us.
Right. But we're out here with signs saying, please meet with us. And it's like, we're beggars. No, we're done with that.
Yeah.
We're done. We will wait. And when you're ready, we will meet you. But we will be there and available whenever you want. We're here and we're ready, but this has to go away. There is no way after the press conference with that attorney on Thursday showing that this is all a fabrication between Pan and Dr. Charity Dean and the San Diego Public Health Department and the state Public Health Department. They already illegally obtained children's medical records.
Right.
It's wrong. And they've already they targeted doctors based on information they gathered illegally.
Right.
According to federal law. That's a crime.
Yeah.
And there's no way that Governor Newsom, there is an out. There is an out here for him to take, because this, at least base it on real information.
Right.
But no fraudulent exemptions. That's your reason, fraudulent exemptions. But there's been no evidence of it,
Not
despite despite them having illegally gained materials. They still haven't been able to prove there was a fraudulent exemption.
Right.
So this is not. There's an out.
Yeah.
And the out is the collusion and conspiracy to create a false narrative to base this on.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Thank
you
you
so much for being out there and fighting for everybody and fighting for your own children. And you're getting an incredible amount of support from the community. People are so happy. There should have been hundreds of us in there with you doing the same thing. And I'm glad that there was two.
Yes. Well, and the time is now. And the time is now for everybody to be doing this everywhere. The V is for Vaccine rally that we had last 2 weeks ago, that needs to happen outside every legislator's office, everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere, and across California this week. So if you can't get here, get to your local office, because they need to know that this is not just this. They say it's a small group, but it's not a small group, and they need to see that this small group that shows up, which is in the thousands usually for the bigger events, it is spread out across the state and across the country.
Right.
And
those are just the ones that can show up. You know, with families, and again, families with disabled children, it's not so easy.
No. Well,
so
and people taking off jobs. One gentleman already lost a contract last week. He's a music educator for families of children like ours that need special services and would, it's music therapy, and he lost a contract.
Right.
And, so people need, it's hard. And so this weekend, and if you can't be here, then show your sign, I stand with California from whatever state you're from.
Right.
Because the bill just landed in Florida. It's not over in several states already.
No.
And, we're going into fall now, so there'll be another measles crisis here in a minute, even though it just ended in New York.
You think?
So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. We really appreciate what you did.
Absolutely.
It's meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you.